So great. So thanks, guys, for being willing to join the discussion today. It's kind of the second one. We did the first one last week on speedrunning, these kind of state of the game and Monster Train discussions. And I think that went really well. At least it got very positive feedback on YouTube when we posted it and live when we did it. So hoping that this continues to go well. But yeah, so the topic today wanted to cover is the daily challenges. I think all of you guys are well experienced with daily challenges. Definitely seeing a lot of, everyone fluctuating between top 10 and then my occasional top 250. Those runs happen. But so great to have you guys. Maybe just do a quick self-promotion of what your background is regarding daily challenges and then how you stream and so on. Anyone can start. Bane, maybe you start. Just give a quick self-promotion. Why are you suited for this discussion?
Cool. I've been playing Monster Train since beta, and I really enjoyed the game. I didn't really get into daily challenges until probably about 10 days after release, I'd say. But immediately I was hooked. It got me, I very quickly became getting up in the ranks to seeing myself in the top 10, top 50s pretty regularly. And I actually keep a spreadsheet of my performance sort of measured over time. And I'm currently ranked 38th. So not too terrible, but we'll get there.
Sal, do you want to give a little intro for yourself?
Sure. So I too got into Monster Train during the beta, and similar to Bane, it took me a while to get into the daily challenges, but I really enjoyed them because of the diversity and the additional challenge of scoring. I managed to get into the closed beta testing team. So there was a small group in the closed beta testers who were always competing in the daily challenge. And I was definitely one of them who was very interested in doing well in the dailies and optimizing stuff and adapting to different strategies that are possible with mutators. And I very much enjoy this playstyle of optimizing for score and adapting to the daily mutators. So I'm often on the first page on the top 10 of the daily challenges. Sometimes my strategy don't work out so well, and I had daily challenges where I died before I could even reach Seraph, so that happens to me too. Yeah.
Excellent. And then Chance, what about you?
I'm Chance. So, as far as the daily challenges are concerned, I think it's an excellent way to break the monotony of what can be tedious from like the normal grind on it, especially with all what they add into the game. Although I do have a tendency to try to rush through things, and when I pause and think about things, it definitely changes my perspective. And I think the daily challenge can be a great way for people to really learn and strategize as far as this game is concerned.
Cool. So kind of similar to the others, I started playing in open beta. And honestly, at the time, I didn't do any daily challenges, right? I was just doing Covenant 0, Covenant 1, repeat play over and over again. And then when the full release came out, I think pretty early on, I was doing daily challenges. And I think for me, Chance, you mentioned it already, but I don't think that Monster Train gets stale very quickly because there's a lot of variety just doing the regular grind from 1 to 25. But having these daily challenges is kind of like these special puzzle boxes that you're trying to break down and see you have a whole thousands of people trying to do the exact same seed, and how are you going to approach it and try to do better or do something different than the others to try to push you into the top 10, top 25, top 50 was very appealing to me. So looking at about the number of people that participate, it's ranges between 3,000 to 5,000 is what I've seen as a pretty standard trend. 3,000 to 5,000 people participating, I think. And I don't think the devs have released numbers, but the estimates on Steam are something like at least 200,000 people probably have bought Monster Train. So we're looking at a subset of players that's like 2.5%. So if we were trying to convince the other 97.5% of players who don't do the daily challenges, what would you tell them to try to encourage them to participate? And it's open for anyone to start.
I'll gladly field this. I think it is, especially coming from somebody that like wants to speedrun the game, like wants to make it different. I constantly see myself running into a situation where I basically become an imbecile, right? So like I don't play it the right way, and you only have one go round at it, right? So you have to think things through, and if you walk into that circumstance as a newcomer, right, you'll easily surpass my score if that's my mindset coming in, where like I'm like, all right, so I'm just gonna try to kill the boss on the first floor every single time, and I'm gonna do that. You don't have that mentality, right? So like you'll have your own strategy. Like you can develop everything on your own and like make your own strategy up and decide what's best for you. And then I think it's very easy for each person to come into this game and decide like, oh, I'm going to do things this way, and decide that like that didn't work the best for me. And I could like, idealistically, like this happens, but I know that I can modify my own strategy this way. I think it's easy for a beginner to come into a daily challenge and modify their strategy as opposed to other ways to play.
Okay.
So
go ahead, Sal.
Okay. So I think the daily challenge is a very good way to increase your experience in the game, learn more about it, because it is the same seed for everyone. You can discuss your picks, your plays with other people. You can watch streamers play the daily challenge, streamers like us who regularly stream daily challenges, and you can, because it's the same seed, you can potentially there's a much easier access to find your mistakes, or where you couldn't improve, or how your strategy was maybe more effective or less effective than another strategy. You can also look at decks from top players in the game itself, in the rankings. So that's something that can definitely help you get better as well. So that's definitely one aspect that I think many players can benefit from the daily challenge. And then there's also the thing that these mutators, they change some of the fundamental rules of the game. So it's a lot of diversity, a lot of variety as well, which can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I kind of agree with a lot of what's been said so far, but I think there's something else that's probably attracting when it comes to playing daily challenges. So, first of all, you have the fact that, look, some daily challenges we have 3,000 to 5,000 players. It seems to depend. And what's really interesting about daily challenges is that despite the fact that Monster Train boils down to, on its surface world, a bunch of small, single basic choices, those choices add up to having, of those 3,000 people, if we remove the people who unfortunately lose very early on, we have so much diversity amongst those people that each one of those, like let's say the top 50%, each one of those 1,500 people, depending on the daily challenge, sometimes they tend to be fairly similar, but they have each got a different play style. They've made different choices. And that, I think, is just something that's really incredible. I think that being able to engage with a community like that and see yourself progress and improve day after day is really good. It teaches self-reflection. So, when you're not able to get a really good score one day, even though you had maybe a couple of days of amazing score, you can be like internally thinking, why didn't that happen? And you don't do that when you're playing single player. And necessarily, I mean, some will,
Yeah.
but it's once you get to a certain point in single player, whereas from daily challenge, that's there in the get-go. The mutators, as Sao-Link said, are absolutely incredible. And one last thing, the playing with the groups that Chance alluded to was, that wasn't even a pun, that was good.
Nice.
Is something that's really solid. But I'd even go further. When I started seeing Sao-Link on the leaderboards before I even knew who he was, I didn't know he was a streamer. I had no knowledge about him. And I was like, this guy who I keep seeing on the leaderboard, this is who I've got to beat. This is who I want to see myself beat every day. And that is now like a personal sort of like nemesis situation. And it's amazing. Like just creating these little people who you see regularly and be like, I want to get better than that. So
I think that's awesome that you have that kind of relationship with him. But like, I think everything you just said there, Bane, was like spot on. I think you pretty much encapsulated everything the daily challenge is.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I do have people like that too. For me, it's mostly Thanatos, who was also in the daily challenge, very active in the daily challenge in the closed beta. So it was very often there was a kind of a rivalry, a friendly rivalry between me and Thanatos and one other open closed beta tester I don't see as regularly, but he was a bit more active. Leary93. He was also pretty high up there, so we always had that friendly competition amongst ourselves to score the highest in the daily challenges, and it's really fun.
And maybe one last point that I would make, you play differently in the daily challenge, just in general, because it's a different goal in the end, right? Like most of the Covenant grind, Hell Rush, maybe Hell Rush to a smaller extent, but it's like survival. Covenant 25 runs are all about how do I survive this run the best that I can, and you can't play that way with daily challenge if you want to get in the top 10, top 25. You have to play a little bit greedier, and it's balancing the greed with the your own game knowledge of knowing, okay, if I go all in on this consumer of crowns and I don't get an enabler in the next couple of rings, I'm screwed. And I think having that risk reward mentality to a larger extent than at least I get out of the standard Covenant runs is also, I think, quite good. It forces you to push yourself. And for me, this has led to a lot of discovery as well on how to exploit mechanics, how to take advantage of cards in a way that you don't normally consider. And then same with the point that you made already, Bane, that, and I do this, I always look at the top 5 if I'm not in it. And even if I am in it, I look at the top 5 and see, like, how did these guys do it? And sometimes it's because they got all the artifacts because they hacked. And sometimes it's because they did something completely different than me. And I will also
just
go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to jump in there. I do want to say that even though there are like sometimes hackers in the top 5, it is worth stating that Shiny Shoe do amazing work at removing hackers from that leaderboard and making it so
they do 100. I can vouch for that, even in Hell Rush, which is something I'm far more familiar with than the daily. But I do want to shout back to Nate right there. And something he said where it's like, do I want to take the risk? Like in Hell Rush, we're taking the risk every time, right? Like you have to take that challenge or you're screwed, right? It
I
doesn't
agree.
work. It does not work that way in the daily challenge. Like sometimes we recognize in the daily challenge, like we don't want our pyre to take that much damage because we will lose more points because we can't represent our top tier of our train, right? Like we can't do it. So like it's different where we need to in Hell Rush. It doesn't work that way in the daily challenge, and I just think
Yeah.
that. Oh, okay. Go ahead. I want you. I'm
Dissenting
interested. I'm
opinions.
interested. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to say I don't think I've ever skipped a challenge skipped a trial in the daily challenge since the game's release.
Nope.
I did
Not a
one.
single one.
One once. One once.
I did once as well.
I agree that you shouldn't for top tier score, but I guess it depends on. I mean, maybe I'm messing up. Maybe you guys like can show me things and like show me the light. But like, I just feel like there's certain circumstances where like if I choose wrong initially, I'm screwed. If but again, you know, even if it's like a for like, what is it called? Guys, help me out. Where like, there's every floor has a minion on it. What's it
Oh
called?
yeah. I can't remember the trial name.
Mark of Invasion.
Yeah, Mark of
Yes,
Invasion.
Mark of Invasion.
Yeah.
There. So like you're guaranteed to take pyre damage, right? And so we have to weigh that out. I understand, right? Which is not a big deal, but like, what was it? Yesterday's invasion had spikes, right? So
Hey,
so if
spoilers.
your pyre,
Spoilers.
if you're, what do you mean pillars? No, it's
No,
your pyre,
spoilers.
right?
Spoilers.
No?
I said I haven't played the daily challenge yet. I'm going to do it after this discussion.
Oh, I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's
Yeah.
just like if hypothetically were it to be spikes, like if your pyre hits a mark of invasion, it's gonna get wrecked, right? So
Yeah,
Sure, but
But if you look at it from just a score perspective, if your pyre takes 100 damage during a fight, if you take the trial, your pyre takes 100 damage as a result of that, you still have the same score as if you didn't take the trial and took no damage at all. Because the challenge
The percentages work out that way.
the challenge is 50%.
Right.
And
you take
can't
100
lose-
damage as ludicrous. Like that that is an insane amount of damage.
I mean, yeah, it would probably ruin your further decision making. But if we are a bit more realistic about things, if you take a trial and you take like 15 damage from it, yes, you lose 30% points, but you gain 50%. So that's still a net gain of 20% of the points of the fight. That's like killing the boss 2 floors further down.
Yeah, I get you, but like if you take 100 damage, you are not gonna get just minus 30. You're gonna get minus way more than that.
no,
No,
it
it's max.
caps if
It
you
caps
take
out
it.
at 50. Caps out at 50%. No matter how much damage you take. And I
You
think
can't ever lose more points than you gain from the trial. It's
Yeah, yeah.
impossible.
and
Well,
this was something
shame
for
on
me as
me.
well that I
But
learned.
for all that being said, I do take the trial every time, regardless of how that contradicts me. I do, only because I'm more of a Hell Rush player than a trial player.
No, I this is right, and like when I don't stream the daily challenge all the time. I found very early that when I stream the daily challenge, I play significantly worse. So I've in my own pride, I usually do the daily challenge at a different time, and there's actually multiple reasons for that, and I'll get into it in a little bit because a little bit mental mentality here. But yeah, so when I do stream it, what I always say is you don't wuss out on trials and daily challenge. You can't. If you ever want to get in the top 25, you take every trial. And if you look at the scores after and you go through all of them, every single one of them, at least in the top 25, took every trial without exception. And so then you get to those, floor 7s, and you get all enemies heal on every time they move up a floor. And you have to ask yourself, are you going to do this? And you are, because you're doing a daily challenge and it's the only way to get a top score. So it's for me.
Yeah,
It's go ahead, Sao-Link.
the question there becomes not do I do this? It's how do I
Yes.
do this?
And this is something that I think daily challenges at least built in me is knowing that I'm taking every single challenge. You have to build your deck around that. If I'm building my deck and I'm hitting floor 4, floor 5, and I don't have a way to deal at least 140, 160 damage on a single floor, I know I'm going to get screwed by that floor 7 challenge. And you have to build up to that, and make sure that you're deck building for those later challenges that are going to come. And I wasn't doing that before. I started doing the daily challenges regularly.
So I guess that comes back into, though, like, is there ever a point where, like, we yield that we can't get that first floor boss kill and we stack on the third floor?
Yep, sometimes you do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep, that definitely happens. Because if you have to weigh, besides doing the trial for scoring, you have to weigh taking pyre damage and killing the boss earlier against each other. And if you take 5 pyre damage, that's worth 1 floor of 1 turn earlier boss kill. Because 5 pyre damage is 10%, 1 turn earlier kill is 10%. So you weigh these two against each other, and sometimes you have to say, no, I have to kill on a higher floor, otherwise I will lose points to taking pyre damage because I don't have the time to set up to prepare for these enemies.
Exactly. Although I don't feel like that's an option where it comes to other game modes. I think that's what makes the daily challenge so special, right? Like, we have to do things a certain way. We have to, like, strategize to make things exactly perfect, or we're not getting in the top 10.
I think that it also...
No, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I think that it also prioritizes things like that you might not prioritize in a non-daily challenge. So there are cards that exist in the game that I typically won't touch in a High Covenant run, or sometimes not even touch in a Hell Rush run necessarily.
I don't want to interrupt, but can you give me an example, Bane?
Okay, sure. So I don't really like days as a mechanic, generally speaking. And unless I'm going really hardcore into sapping, I don't like picking just a single sap card. However, in Daily Challenge, if I know that I'm going to be maybe facing an area where they're going to hit my pyre in a later challenge, I might grab a simple sap card early on, just so that way, when those enemies are going to get to that point, I drop it on them so that way they don't do damage or as much damage to my pyre. Whereas I wouldn't care about that necessarily in the other runs, because I wouldn't be... In Hell Rush, I don't always take all trials, and in Covenant runs, I definitely don't take all trials. So I can actually pick and choose in those runs, whereas I don't have that luxury in Daily Challenge. So I have additional cards that I wouldn't normally consider as standalones.
Can I interrupt one more time? And I'm sorry, Nate, I'll let you in after this, and I'm sure we're going to have a Hell Rush discussion. Bane, are you saying you've had success in Hell Rush without taking all challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Multiple times.
Okay.
I have several instances of successful Hell Rush runs where I haven't taken all challenges, especially if it is a complex, I know this is getting off topic, but if it's a complex clan combination, where it's like Melting Remnant and Umbra, for instance, that takes so much time to micromanage that I don't need to take every challenge.
No.
Okay, and I apologize for getting up.
No, it's fine.
Socket. Nate, all you.
What I also thought, maybe this is a good transition point to talk about with daily challenges, is the current state, right? So the current state, as I mentioned, is basically everyone's taking every trial, and the question I pose, and I don't want to load it too much, so I'll keep it very flat to start with, and then maybe we can load it up later. What do you think about, like, the ratio of scores, the distribution of scores, and the distribution of success and failures? So successful runs versus failed runs. If you just look at, like, we obviously don't know the stats, but just in your anecdotal experience, how are you feeling about that level of difficulty currently and the amount of success that's happening in the daily challenge, do you think that that's a good level, a good balance right now, or would you want to see it differently in the future? So just talking specifically balance and current level of success people are finding.
All right, so I'll go first on this. Sorry, I'll just jump in and take it.
Yeah.
My experience with the daily challenges is this: not all daily challenges are completable with all choices, which we all know. One of the things that I love about starting a daily challenge is I get to see the top 10 scores. The top 10 scores let me know how difficult is this daily challenge. If the top 10 scores halfway through the day are all in the 44,000 region, I know it's going to be a difficult challenge. That difficulty spikes. So if they're all 50,000 scores, I go, okay, this might be an easier challenge for people to complete. I find that the overall difficulty between a 44,000 run and a 50,000 run in terms of top 10 scores to be fairly good. I enjoy that different days have different challenge levels. I wish that Shiny Shoe could do something. Of course they can't, but I wish that they could do something where, on the weekends or like on Sunday, maybe it's like a really challenging run or something. I know that probably requires a little bit too much thought process on Shiny Shoe's behalf. I don't know if they're just randomly giving us daily challenges. It doesn't feel that way. It feels like the first battle almost is very rarely invasion and stuff like that. It seems intentional, intentionally crafted in some ways. So I feel like the difficulty level is there. In terms of completion, I would say, from what I've looked at when I score in the top like 200 or 300, at that point, there's probably only about one person probably no. At that point, there's still probably about 50% of people who are still finishing the challenge. And then as we go down, it starts being like one person a page, which really means that only about, I'd say, 10% of people are actually successfully finishing the challenge. Maybe it's more than that, but I feel like that's a fairly comfortable level of challenge, at least for me. So from a challenge aspect, I feel like that's pretty much in the sweet spot as it is now.
Yeah, I can agree with that. For me, the daily challenge is always the first thing I do on stream, and one of the first things I do when I look at the daily challenge after taking a look at the clans and mutators is I will also look at the scoreboard, and the look at the scoreboard will oftentimes define my very broad strategy. Do I go for consistency or do I go for risks? If the scores are on the lower end, 44,000 for example, I will definitely try to go for consistency, build a deck that doesn't take damage and can take all trials, and early boss kills, not so much of a concern in that circumstance. While if the deck, if the scores are in the 50k, maybe above 50k region, then I will definitely try to take risks and take high roll cards that might not pay out, but if they pay out big time, and I might get flying boss kills and things like that. So that's a very interesting difference in the range of difficulty. Sometimes you can also look at the modifiers and think this is going to be a tough one or this is going to be an easy one. I like that there's some range in difficulty, and yeah, I think I don't really look at completion rates or anything, but I think about 10-15% of players who finish the daily challenge does seem kind of a good challenge. And the daily challenge offers this unique thing that if you are a very good player, you optimize for score. And if you're not quite so skilled player, maybe less experienced with the game, you can just play the daily challenge and just try to get through, just try to beat Seraph. And that's also an interesting challenge because of the mutators changing the basic rules of the game. So I think it strikes a very nice balance that's interesting for both more experienced and less experienced players.
One contrast to both of your comments, I try to get the daily challenge in before any scores are posted. And I have the luxury of being in a time zone where that's very convenient for me. But I know, other players, 4 in the morning is not the greatest time to jump into Monster Train and do a daily challenge, but it works out quite well for me. And I do it because I don't want to have the preconception. I want to go in complete blind and see where, try to puzzle it out without having that. Because I did at first, I used to, and I definitely will this morning because the challenge has been out for half a day, a little over half a day. But in general, it's also why I don't stream it, because I don't normally stream at 2 p.m. in the afternoon for me. So, but I have been doing that recently because I noticed that it was affecting my decision making, and I wanted to kind of like hone that back and say, hey, I want to make my decisions based on what I'm given, not based on other performance. I'm thrilled that you can't see the details behind. I mean, that would just, for me, ruin it entirely. But even scores for me is a little bit of a spoiler for exactly the reasons that you illustrated. And so you're welcome for me getting my runs in early so that you can reference it when you're going in to your own runs. But
Nate, I'm gonna chime in right here, dude. Like, I'm gonna take it. I think what you just said is outstanding, and I appreciate where you're coming from. Like, I play other games where there are daily challenges, and I want to be the first front-facing person doing it. I don't necessarily want to be doing it when it comes to Monster Train, right? And back to Bane's point, and actually back to Sao-Link's point, like, they're the best at what they do, right? Like, they're here for a reason. So I get it. But I also love being the upfront person. Like, that is fun. And trying to derive your own like ability to like do something and make something special and be good for you, it is important. Like, maybe it's not like that great for any one of us, but back to our original topic, it's very important for people that are getting into this game. It's very fun not to worry about that 40k 50k. It is very important to like just worry about what you can do. So
maybe that's another good segue to the next point. So, who has, and in which, maybe not say all the games, but if you've done other games that have similar daily challenges, what do you find good or equal around Monster Train? What do you like about other daily challenges you see in other games that you would hope that they would adapt? Or what's your feeling if you compare how Shiny Shoe has handled the whole daily challenge structure compared to what you've seen in other games? Or maybe haven't seen in other games if this is the first time you're jumping into daily challenges in a game like this.
I'll field this if it's okay.
Yeah.
I do think that we can expect Bane and Sao-Link to like remain on top, right? And the reason why trust me, I'm not like just like blowing smoke up your butthole. Like, I do, like, it's just experience. It's how it works, right? Because other games I've played with daily challenges, once you get to a certain level, like, you're always gonna remain on top, and the only people that are gonna beat you are gonna be people that cheat or people that watch and like just know how to break it down. So I think for as early in development as this game is, it's done well, and honestly, I don't see how it could separate itself otherwise. But I yield now.
All right, I think the only other daily challenges that I play a lot of games that you would play like on a daily basis and have like a match and leaderboard style situation. But the only other daily challenges that I played, and I didn't play them very long, were Slay the Spire. And of course, Monster Train gets referenced as a Slay the Spire clone often, which I don't think is entirely fair. I think there are so many differences with the game that it can't really be adequately compared. I do feel that despite my experience and despite my regular scorekeeping here in Monster Train, I actually was fairly trash at the daily challenges in Slay the Spire. And I think that where was I going with this? While there are definitely some changes that I would like to see, and I think we're going to get into changes a little bit later in the state of play, the fact is that Shiny Shoe has done amazing at giving us a daily challenge that works consistently and well at the start. I wish that they could do something more with the leaderboards, though, just to I feel like some differences there for like things like restarting and stuff like that. Even if you wanted to keep narrowing it down, like allowing people to see their performance over a week or stuff like that would be really nice. I'd also like to be able to see other people's stuff like that, and I think that level of adding further competition can only improve the daily challenge experience. You know, when I see Sao-Link up there for the third time in a week, you know, being able to click on Sao-Link's name and be like, has Sao-Link been, or if I haven't seen Sao-Link for a few days and I'm like, where's Sao-Link been? And then I can click on his profile and I can be like, cool, he had a couple of bad days back to back. I know that never happens, but it's a good dream to have, right? So I think that Monster Train. Sorry, give me a second. I feel like Monster Train does very well with its daily challenges. There's enough variance. There's enough changes every day that I really enjoy it. I wish it was more frequent than daily if I could, but that's not up to me.
Yeah, for me, somewhat similar to Bane. The only other game I have done daily challenges in is Slay the Spire. What I really like about Monster Train's daily system is that it's very easy to keep track of your objectives for score, which was always something that put me off in Slay the Spire, because scoring in Slay the Spire is very complex. There are a lot of things you have to keep in mind, like the cards in your deck directly affect your score,
Yep.
instead of just how your deck performs, which I wasn't a big fan of, but it does have some appeal as well, so I won't say it's a bad thing, it just wasn't for me. And in Monster Train, I really like that it's mostly about performance. Well, while you could say like earlier boss kills doesn't really mean performance, it's still a pretty straightforward goal you can aim for and optimize around. So I like that. And what BaneWilliams said, if you can see other players, like how they performed, that would be very cool. I would like that. There's something similar already with the friends leaderboard, but it's not quite as far-reaching as the thing Bane described here. But yeah, if you wanna see me when I'm not in the first few pages, then add me on your stream friends list, and then you can look me up in the.
I mean, I'm already
Friends
gonna do that.
leaderboard.
You don't have to tell me that. You gotta get me one over.
One maybe last comment I would make, just specific to the mutators, the Slay the Spire, but also there's I'm trying to remember what other games I was doing dailies on. I know it's been others before, but they fundamentally changed the game in a different way than I've seen, at least in Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire was often wholly focused on deck building effects. Like it affects your deck building. You start with different cards. You get prismatic orb or whatever, prismatic shard. You get, so it's like how it affects your deck building. And there are modifiers for deck building in Monster Train, right? You get the take one, get two. You get the purge at the end of every turn. So there are deck building effects. But on the tactical level, I've not seen modifiers as heavily impacting the tactical game of Monster Train. Like it's crazy, right? You get Acid Rain, and all of a sudden you have to play
100%,
completely differently.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And knowing that there are layers to the mutators, for me, I really enjoyed this. And maybe to even contrast, maybe this is too broad, but in general, one of the things that I love at Monster Train is the tactical layer is so different than any other tactical layer I've ever played. You don't have as strong of if I do this card now, it affects what happens 10 turns later in a way I've never seen in another game. If I play my champion on floor 2, it can make a vast different effect on the overall run than if I play him on floor 1. And, whether I strike first or defend first just doesn't matter in a lot of the other games. So I really like this tactical part of it.
I do want to say one thing. I do want to say one thing, man. There's not a segue for this, but I need you to know, man, what you've put together is very impressive. And the way you host this is super impressive. And good on you, man.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Let's say, what are we at time-wise? We are at, we got about 15 minutes left. So then I would say, Bane, you already started talking about this already. Maybe we can kind of further develop. We know there are mutators coming, right? They showed off some of them already. Beyond just adding mutators, you mentioned one already, having a kind of profile view of players. What else would you want to, if you could have Shiny Shoe in a room with you and they asked, hey, we see you all the time, the top 25. We really want to develop this further. What would be your recommendations to push maybe participation or push the I don't know, fun to be had? I don't know. What would you recommend to them to continue to push the daily challenge further?
All right, so I mean, I'm of two minds, right? I would love to see Monster Train become an evergreen game that just is constantly improved upon and really built up. I think it has completely got that capacity, and it doesn't need much to change it to really get to that point. As far as daily challenge specifically goes, because what I would love to see is a regular hybrid between Hell Rush and daily challenge, but that's way off topic. Just narrowing that leaderboard, improving the UI, the user experience for being able to see how am I doing against people who I care about. Like, I'd love to be able to go through and see the Thanatoses and stuff like that, and pin them, and so that way these are people I care about. These are people I want to see how I'm doing against every day. That'd be fantastic if I could see leaderboards where I can see people who do trialists. Like, think about it. If we've got all these new people who want to jump in and they're just like, oh, I can never get to the top of the scoreboards. Maybe that's because they're playing without trials, but there's no reason that they should be compared necessarily to the overall leaderboard. Still have that overall leaderboard, of course, but allow there to be some leaderboard options where I can see, hey, what about people who just didn't pick any trials? How am I doing against those people? Because, if I'm new to the game, that's probably what I'm going to be doing. And it'd be cool to compare myself to those people instead of just, the Sao-Links of the world. I would love to see that broken down. I said with restarts, I'm a purist. I don't restart battles. There's one exception to restarting battles. That's if I make a tactical error in placing units down on the very first turn. Because there is no undo function in the game, that is the only time that I will restart a battle in this game. And it's fine that other players don't want to do that. It's fine that other players want to restart battles and do things their way. I completely 100% applaud it. But at the same token, I would love to see an Iron Man leaderboard where it's those people who don't do that, to see how it's done there too.
Yeah.
Can I jump in real quick?
Sure.
Sao-Link, I'm sorry. Real quick, I would love, like 100% love to go Iron Man all the time. Like, I don't think there should be that bullshit where you quit out. Like, I really don't like it. I think it's nonsense. And, like, I understand that it's in the game right now, but I think it should be negated. Like, I don't think it should be in the game. I think if you quit out of the game, you should, like, forfeit your run.
So, well, I'm in a bit of a unique position here because I do actually have a relatively direct way to talk to the devs as a beta tester, and I have made suggestions for improvements for the daily challenges before. In fact, I know that at least one mutator is coming that I inspired or helped form. I also did already we beta testers did already suggest a Hell Rush style daily challenge. Our idea was that there would be 2 daily challenges, one in Hell Rush mode and one in normal mode, that both of them would be accessible. So I would definitely like some of the leaderboard changes that Bane talked about. Something like the Iron Man. I would definitely be in for that because I don't mind restarting and approaching a battle like a puzzle, how to do the optimal play, how to get the best possible kill. That can be fun in its own way, and I don't think it should be removed, but for people who don't restart their entire their combats over and over again, or people who don't restart combats at all, having their own displayed leaderboard, that would be very interesting. I personally try to avoid it because I play all my daily challenges on stream, and I don't want to bore my viewers by showing them the same combat over and over again, but I do it from time to time just to display also the different results a battle can have if you make slight tactical changes in the early setup phase or something like that. So actually, I think restarting battles is also very nice for learning the tactical part of the combat, where you can make slight changes and see how the results turn out. So I don't think that possibility should be removed. Yeah, other than that, something I would be interested in is as a more hardcore player, I would be interested in higher Covenant dailies. Not every day. Maybe it could be a weekly running like on Covenant 10 or 20 or even
Yeah, like
25.
on Sunday or something like that.
Alongside the normal daily, something like that would be fun, just as an added challenge, where it might not actually be correct to take every trial. For example, I think there was a bug on the first or second day that
was
made
super
the
fun.
daily challenge be Covenant 25. So that was very interesting for me as a player that was already experienced with Covenant 25 stuffs to play with, and so that's something I could see that would make the daily challenge more interesting for me and perhaps other players who are trying to push their limits. Yeah, but as it stands, I think the daily challenge is still really fun. And the leaderboard improvements that Bane talked about would be a big step towards improving the whole thing.
So I would say for me, a lot of it is I would love to see more stats. I would just love to see more stats on, like, as you mentioned, trial taking, on early turn kills. I mean, I'd love to see even card selection. What was the most picked card across the daily challenge, across all players? Like, that kind of stuff would be, as a data person, and I, in my normal life job, I work a lot with data. Seeing that kind of stuff would just, yeah, that would really.
Yeah, I can't tell you how much I agree with that. Like, everything you're saying right now rings true to, like, the one thing I struggle with is, like, I always want to see that shit. Like, I always want to know what people are picking, which route they're going, and why. And so I agree with you, Nate.
And then the other, this has been my, I don't know how they could make it work, but what would be cool for me is a little bit of variability in how people start their runs. And for me, that would be, what if you allowed people to pick their covenant level on the daily challenge and it affected their overall score? So again, from the very outset, you had a risk reward, knowing the mutators. Am I willing to bump it up? And you probably only do it in 5 interval levels or 10 interval levels or whatever. But being able to say, I'm willing to try this on Covenant 20, I'm willing to try this on Covenant 10, and having that affect your score. I don't know. Again, I don't know how feasible that is. But for me, that'd be an interesting idea, just to see how much people are willing to push the risk and try to achieve, higher scores. But as it is, oh, go ahead.
That's interesting, but is that not like a train wreck waiting to happen? Like, isn't that just going to be like all the top players exactly where they belong?
Maybe. Or maybe it's the Icarus and you reach too close to the sun and you get burned, right? Like that. Yep. So, but I'm coming from the perspective, and if you ever saw any of my earlier content or you do my weekly challenge, that's my mentality, right? Is to really like push it too far in some cases and get wrecked. But I would like, for me, this is maybe a controversial. I think I win, not the score wise, but I think it's too easy for me to complete the daily challenges consistently. I think if you're playing at Covenant level 25, if you're playing Covenant level 25 and you're losing daily challenges, I don't know what's happening, because they're not, at least from my perspective, the mutators don't push it enough to where I'm losing to Seraph. Now, I may not get 40,000 points, 50,000 points, but I rarely lose. And I would like a daily challenge occasionally. And that's why I loved the first daily challenge. I didn't know why my units were getting dazed on floor 10, I didn't realize why the units were getting dazed on floor 3, but I loved it because it really pushed me, and I didn't succeed. And it's probably the only daily challenge that I haven't beaten Seraph. For sure not the one where actually that's not true. There's a couple others where I lost that I can remember, but I would like that experience more often, to really be challenged. But I don't know that the large player base agrees, so that's just my personal feeling.
I think that could definitely work. What you would do is it would just be a visual indicator, and then as long as there were more leaderboards, have a Covenant 10, have a Covenant 25 leaderboard done. Like, it's pretty straightforward. So they keep the same score. There's no score change, but you do get your own unique leaderboard that you can have a look at if you want to compare your situation against other players willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see that. Definitely something that has been talked about before in the closed beta community as well. And I'm definitely all in for it. It could make things a lot more interesting. I would prefer separate leaderboards for the separate Covenant levels. Maybe make it Covenant 10, Covenant 20, Covenant 25 as the stages, basically, and then just have different leaderboards for each of them instead of adding a score modifier and mixing them all together, because that's gonna be pretty hard to nail the exact score modifier, basically. Yeah. I think that wouldn't work out quite as well for that. But with separate leaderboards, it would be much easier to make that work.
Probably. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Ben.
No, all I was going to say is that I fully agree with like personal records and like I love in single player when I get to see those, like I beat my like mech score in this. I'd love to see what all the players get. You know, how many people chose the left path here? Like even that level, if we could get it, not that I'm imagining we could. Like all of that data stuff would be 100%. Like I am super on board with that.
Yep, me too. Slight change of topic here. I would also like to see the ability to view other people's decks in Hell Rush, which we currently do not have.
Yeah,
That's,
I mean, it is changed the topic, but it all relates back to the same thing, right, guys? Like, we do want to know, like, which way did you go? Did you go left or right? Did you pick the artifact? Which artifact did you pick? Like, we all want to know that.
And for me, it would even just having it on the end screen, having a viewable, like you have, right? You have the rings because you have each of the different trials that were taken and the scores, and then just like having the, you know, this kind of stuff that you could do. But all right, we are at 1 hour, so I'm going to try to keep us on time. Super appreciate their participation. I think this was a really good discussion. And I think future topics, definitely Hell Rush is one of them that I want to cover. And in addition, just Covenant level 25 play. How do we feel like the state of current high level play is going? But yeah, with that, let's close. And good luck on the future daily challenges. Again, appreciate your participation, and we will talk again hopefully soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Very much.
Bane and Sal, thank you for chatting with me. Appreciate it. Have a great night.
Yeah, thank you guys for the discussion. It was very interesting, and especially thank you, Nate, for organizing the whole thing.
No problem, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Nate.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see more of this kind of content, hit that like button, subscribe, comment below, check out the other videos, and I'll see you in the next one.